彼女の宝具の性質を正確に見破れる魔術師が一人でもいれば警察諸君にも勝ちの目が出るかもしれんな。おとなしくしろ。しかしだ、困るんだ。そんないい勝負の末に納得するような死に方じゃ。
Because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button and to subscribe and the post notification button.
So when it comes to Fate, I feel like a lot of people have heard of this anime before because it's one of the most weirdest anime that you'll come across on your journey of watching anime. Usually it's when you're just trying to explore anime and just watch a different bunch of anime. You're gonna hear about Fate, but the thing that you'll quickly learn about Fate is that it's one of the most gated sort of communities. And what I mean by this is that it's an anime that almost feels like you need a degree to understand everything that happens in this anime. And even if you do have this so-called degree, I still feel like you wouldn't understand everything that happens within this anime. And as such, it's a really difficult anime to get into. But this season has kind of been different. It might maybe be the best season that Fate has had in a very, very long time. Let's talk about it.
Go take some cover, but you got to break out to feed them, right? 'Cause you're tired of being just a copycat.
Now, before I dive into this anime, I need to give you a premise about what's happening within this season of Fate. I don't know. There you go. Now, in terms of this anime, I wasn't joking. I genuinely don't know. The thing about Fate is that for a lot of fans or people who watch the franchise, you're going to come across Fate mainly through Unlimited Blade Works. That is the so-called best Fate ever. A lot of people who just neutrally watch that anime admit that it's really good. And as such, that's really the anime that catapulted Fate a lot to just the general public. But things have been different recently for Fate because it's been carrying on and it hasn't been able to really hit the highs that it used to have. And this was a problem because for a lot of people, Fate is a really hard anime to get into, but the fact that the anime in itself was just not performing as well, it made it really easy for people to lose interest. And even though a bunch of Fates were coming out, it was never like Unlimited Blade Works, and slowly but surely Fate was kind of just disappearing besides the dedicated community. But the thing that's been happening for those who have been dedicated is that they started to notice something over the years. Fate was gradually improving, slowly but surely. And this brings us to the conversation that we're having today. Fate Strange Fake. It's an anime that's out right now this season. And arguably speaking, this season has the potential to be better than Unlimited Blade Works. But funnily enough, I believe it might go under the radar just because the season's so stacked. But this is an anime that really shows love to the fans because the animation is top tier, and arguably speaking, it might be the best animated anime of the season. And that's saying something because there's a bunch of JJK and Freerun out right now. That's saying something because it shows that the franchise is showing more love to actually the fans but also the anime, and people are being rewarded because I feel like this Fate so far is maybe the best for just the neutrals. It gave me that feeling of Unlimited Blade Works where you can just jump into it and enjoy it, and it's really, really amazing. And this is why I want to talk about this anime. Now, to kind of describe Fate a little bit, because like I said, I don't have a Fate degree. So what happens is that you have a bunch of people who get a class of individuals who will fight for them. So they're usually historical figures or fictional figures, and they'll fight for you. They're like your warriors. They're called your servants, and then the person is a master. And you can kind of control them, you can give them commands, and they work with you. Ultimately, it's like a weird form of Hunger Games, basically. And they get sort of like a wish granted in a sense. And that's basically like the most bare bones basic explanation. Now, to kind of visualize that just gives you the mindset of what Fate is doing. Basically, you're seeing a bunch of ancient individuals battle it out and use magic and weird things happening, like really weird things. So this Fate takes place in a place that seems to be in America, which kind of just, well, if you want to have like a holy war, kind of makes sense. The thing that makes this season so intriguing, you watch a lot of well-developed characters. I think the real intrigue is just the things that have happened. Now, every episode has at least one fight or something to keep you enticed, but I think that it's been a season that's really been exploring people utilizing the system and tinkering with the system. It kind of makes weird sense, but there was a point where it seemed like this thing was untouchable. It's a holy war. It's pure in a sense. It's basically the best person wins. But But now, because people are learning more and more about these things, they're kind of facilitating and inorganically trying to find ways to basically get to the Holy Grail. And this season has been nothing short of just madness. It's just the most confusing thing you'll ever see, but it weirdly all makes sense because there's something about this grail that just draws a bunch of people to it, and it's the most fascinating thing to see within the season. So what is it about this season that's gonna make it so special compared to Unlimited Blade Works? And really, I think that the most coolest thing about this season is that as a person who's watched Fate, dropped Fate, picked it up again, just seeing certain characters show up but also revamped and different and kind of interacting with their new masters, because after you get used to a servant you kind of know who they are, but then when you learn more about their master, it's almost like their master kind of gives them a personality, and you really kind of are watching that master's influence on that servant within that season in a holy war. Now whether that person holds them back or helps them, that's the fun thing about it. And as such, within the season you're really just enjoying the adventure of the master more than the servant, which makes it completely unique even though you know the usual suspects who are involved with that anime. And the thing that's neutrally enjoyable about this Fate is that it's a very modern take on something that seems so old-fashioned and traditioned and almost like supernatural. It really reminds me of a Hunger Games in a sense where like everyone's just trying to find ways to succeed, and there's this sort of agreement that at the end whoever like gets there, then we fight each other, or like let's get rid of this powerful person, or let's do this and this. It's a lot of strategy. And the thing about this season also that's fun is that the barrier of entry is extremely low. You learn a few things at the beginning, they talk a lot and express what is required, what is kind of happening, and pretty much everything you need to get recapped or refreshed within this specific season is given to you. And as such, you can have a more fun experience where you're just watching these borderline gods at a point fight each other with the assistance of these mages or these individuals. And it's fantastic, especially given just the whole idea of it, because you have people who are relatively normal basically fighting and competing against supernatural beings who are not only trying to fight their beings but could also get them. And that randomization is something that I spoke about earlier, where this anime really makes you enjoy the characters. Even though the usual servants are there in a sense, it's the masters who really add this element of fun and intrigue into the season. And I think that the cast is really perfect for what they wanted for this season. And as such, Fate is one of the most overlooked anime within this season. But to be fair, I need to share negatives about this season. And the biggest negatives about this season is going to be what happens afterwards. Yes, you have this amazing season, it's gonna be awesome, but I definitely know that everything is not gonna be solved within one season. Probably something might continue or maybe it might not. I could be totally wrong. But right now, biggest worry about Fate is, should this be something you invest your time in watching? Because this is a season that's amazing. But like I said before, Unlimited Blade Works was amazing too, but then the ones in between till now have just either been really confusing or just not good anime. And as such, it makes it really hard to invest in this anime because yes, this season is amazing, but what if the other seasons go back to what they were and it's just confusing and it's not as good? Then you're just gonna feel like you wasted your investment in time, and that's really hard. The other thing that I have to be honest about, as someone who did watch Fate, I have a bit of knowledge that does help me, so maybe even my view of it maybe being a bit difficult to get into or being less difficult this season could be a little bit weird. But I do think that if you're a person who just jumps into the season, you're gonna have a ball and you don't need to know too much, but it does help if you do know stuff. And I'm sure for those who know way more than me, they're having even more fun, because every single time when I check like reviews and comments, you see people just talk, oh my gosh, this episode they did this and they paid homage to this, and you see they're so excited. So ultimately, when it comes to this season, what I can say, they fixed a problem that they've been having for a long time. They care. The animation is beautiful, the animation is amazing. The story in itself is extremely captivating and can catch you as a neutral person. Honestly speaking, there's no reason for someone to not watch this Fate because it's that good and really captured its essence within the season. And I think that the Fate fans within themselves are really happy. But I also think that for the general public, this anime can make you happy as well because it's just that good.